The Dark Ages by Rosman Plata, Alejandro Delgado,
Isabel Espinosa.
and Daniel Medina.
To what extent do you agree or disagree with the term Dark Ages as an accurate way to describe the 1000 years of Western European history? Well, the Dark Ages is an inaccurate term to describe this 1000-year time period because it was an epoch filled with enlightenment and based on future advancement. Therefore, we disagree with the statement.
What? What were the Dark Ages? The Dark Ages was a period of 1000 years, starting from the fall of the Roman Empire and ending with the Renaissance. A lot of historians think that this was a time period with little or no cultural and scientific advancement, but it was quite the opposite. What happened during the Dark Ages? Some of the most important things that happened during the Dark Ages were the Church replacing the Roman Empire as the most powerful force in Europe, the agricultural boost, improved technology, improved farming and population growth, great advancements in math and science, and the Dark Ages left us a legacy of universities, science, architecture, art, and Western music.
Who? In Who we're gonna talk about the famous people that lived during the Dark Ages. At first we got the King Arthur, that it is a debate that historians think that he really didn't exist or he exists. He debated that he was a king or a soldier, but future evidence showed that he won 12 military battles. From there, he began to be a legend that in the present we still hear stories from King Arthur. Then Charlemagne, that lived through 742 to 814. He was the one that united Western and Central Europe. Then Leif Erikson, that was the one that got to America before Cristobal Colon. Then William the Conqueror, that was the one that conquered England and introduced the English language to the official language in England. Richard Langhart, that was really important in the Third Crusade. He was the first king to become a knight. And for last, Vlad the Impaler. He is most known as Conde Dracula. During that time, his legend has been changed to being of vampires and all of that, but he was most known by torturing his enemies in a very bad way.
And talking more about Charlemagne, Charlemagne was born in 742. He was son of Pepin the Short, who was the first ruler of the Franks in this family. Pepin the Short started ruling the Franks kingdom in 751. Unfortunately, Pepin the Short died in 768, and his two sons started ruling the kingdom, Carloman and Charlemagne. They divided the kingdom in two, with Charlemagne divided one side and Carloman the other side. Carlomagne died in 771, and this is when Charlemagne started ruling the Franks by himself. He had the idea to unify most of Europe and make the empire every time bigger. This is why, since the beginning of his kingdom, he is ruling the Franks, he was constantly in the war zone. He was constantly in war-dominated areas to make the empire bigger. He achieved to rule much of the Western Roman Empire, and at the 800s he was named the King of Romans by Pope Leo III. Unfortunately, Carlemagne died in 814, and he was known as being a legend and making the biggest empire since the Roman Empire.
When? The Dark Ages begin when the Western Roman Empire fell in 476. After that, there were many important events, like, for example, Justinian's reign, from 527 to 565. After that, in 814, Charlemagne was crowned Holy Roman Emperor. In 1054, there was a great schism between the Latin Church in Rome and the Eastern Greek Church in Constantinople. From 1096 to 1272, there was the Crusades, and in 1204, the Crusaders sacked Constantinople. In 1452, Constantinople falls, ending the Byzantine Empire. After that, in 1347, the Black Death begins, and then from 1337 to 1453, there was 100 years war between France and England. Finally, the Dark Ages concluded at the end of the 15th century.
For example, in this case, in Western Europe in the 814, the kingdoms and empires that existed were the Charlemagne Empire, the Kingdom of the Avars, the British kingdoms, and the Scottish kingdoms, and others. However, when the Treaty of Verdun was signed later on, the territories changed into many kingdoms. So that tells a lot about the invasions and wars that constantly Western Europe or the Dark Ages had. Moreover, context. The context in the Dark Ages was huge, because not only the Dark Ages had wars and injustices, but all the parts of the world. For example, in 600 AD, Egypt fell in the hands of the Persians and the Muslims. At first, the Persians conquered the Egyptians, but then the Muslims conquered them. After that war, the Arab Empire had its golden age. When they had its golden age, they stretched to parts of the world like Europe, Africa, India, and Asia. By 715 AD, the Arab Empire reached Spain and the Indus River Valley. Also, on the other hand, we have in Africa the great Christian kingdom of Ethiopia, which, thanks to its resources, flourished, reaching the Western Africa. Some of the resources they had were gold, ivory, metals, and slaves. Moreover, when the Arab Empire and the Muslims ceased to conquer India, the civilization prospered and became rich. And they started trading with other civilizations such as China, because China also prospered thanks to the Tang Dynasty. While next to China, Japan developed the feudal system. And in order to finish, the Maya civilization at the western part of the world reached its peak, reaching Peru and other parts of the western Latin America. Okay, so the Dark Ages flourished in many ways. Some of these was art, social, and religion. For example, the artistic aspect of the Dark Ages was important because people used it as a primary method to communicate between them and divine bodies.
The social aspect of the Dark Ages was important because people were able to maintain stability without civil wars or rebellions due to them being devoted to religion.
The religion in the Middle Ages was extremely important since it gave space to the people when the nobility did not. Exemplification and creative elements. These three aspects of Persia are all connected because the religion were the ones that gave faith to society, and this faith caused that society is trying to give this faith back to the religion. So they created art and big pieces of art, beautiful pieces of art, and they made it for the religion. So it is all connected. It is all connected because religion makes society to make art for the religion. So connection, bond.
Okay, so our creative element is going to be based in the different forms of art that they created. So we envision to create forms of art such as paintings, chants, musical creations, and theater plays in order to understand and profoundly comprehend what impact does the people have depending on these arts. Because as we said before, the religion communicates with the people thanks to these methods of art.
Stereotypes. Many people think that the Dark Ages had a lot of stereotypes. So many people think that living in the Dark Ages was an age where no one wants to live, but this is wrong. Living in the Dark Ages was normal. It is not as good as living in a mansion, but it was not as bad as living in a cave. Another stereotype in the Middle Ages was that women did not have rights. This is a mistake because when a king is ill or is too young to make decisions, the woman is the queen is the one that makes the decision. So the queen is a important part in the kingdom. Another stereotype is that scientists were born by the church because they were trying to discover the world, but this is wrong because scientists instead they base on religion to make new discoveries. Another stereotype is that in the Middle Ages, since the Western Roman Empire fell, they had no technological advances. But this is a mistake again because if they made a lot to advance crops and all of that things. So they created the clocks, the horseshoes, the water mills, the windmills, and the windmills. And finally, people think that in the Dark Ages, the church was the one that had all the power, but this is wrong because the church it has a lot of power, but not all the power. It's the one that said yes to no to king's decisions, but also the church was a super schism, the people's schism and the East and West schism that were the ones with the Orthodox Christianity University and West and East Christianity.
Okay, so the lesson that this brings us is that we need to understand each aspect of history before we decide whether some parts of it were good or bad. So, for example, the Middle Ages are recognized mostly for being a very problematic time because there were a lot of wars and many things that were not like really good, but in reality there were many good things too. So we need to understand both parts to decide whether a period of time is actually good or bad.
Daily life. Okay, the manors. Landlords normally owned manors. They provided the serfs or peasants housing, farmland, and protection against bandits. In exchange, serfs tended the landlord's land, cared for their animals, and performed other tasks to maintain the estate. Social classes. The feudalism system had three social classes: the king, the noble, and the peasant. And invasion. People in this time normally lived with fear, as the Muslims, the Magyars, and the Muslims were constantly, and the Vikings were constantly invading, and Europe lived with terror.
Social classes were divided into four stages: royalty, nobility, military, and peasant. The royalty was divided into king, queen, princes, and princesses. The king was the one that had all the power and tried to remove poverty out of the country. The queen were the ones that replaced the king when it was ill or did not, or was too young to make decisions. The princess was the one that take the king, their father, the king's place when they die, and the princesses were normally the ones that go to other provinces or countries to marry the duke or another king. The nobility was divided into the dukes and the barons. The dukes were the ones that ruled the provinces and direct the superior court, while the barons were the ones they had many works. They controlled the economy, they controlled the military, and they were in charge of the serfs. Then the military was military were all to protect the king, and in those times were known as knights. And the peasants that were the most massive class in the Middle Ages was divided into three stages: the freemen, the serfs, and the slaves. The freemen were the farmers that had some land to their own property and they work on the farming crops. Then it came the serfs that were the ones that lived in the lord's house, and how they pay to their lords to live in their house is to they work all day in crops and making their food. And finally the slaves that were most common in the Vikings, that they get the slaves from invasions from provinces and countries.
Okay, so how did the Dark Ages affect the world as we know it today? The Dark Ages left important legacies for our modern world. These included universities, science, architecture, art, and Western music. Many of these things that were created during this period of time are still being used today or looked up to.
Conclusion. Okay, so the Dark Ages was a very particular period of time because not only had a decline but a rise. They had a lot of tragedies such as the Black Death and invasions from the Arab Empire and the spread of Christianity and other things that may have not helped at all the civilization. However, the civilization had a rise after the decline which made them improve. What I mean by this is that thanks to the decline that these Middle Ages had, other aspects could rise and enhance the civilization. Moreover, the Dark Ages were not as terrible as some people or historians depict them. Moreover, the Dark Ages is not a good term to describe the Middle Ages.
This is our bibliography. Thank you for listening, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Hope you
much
good
for
and informed,
listening. Thank you. For, yes.